All right, so let's jump right into something I know a lot of you listeners are passionate about.
Yeah,
And that is supporting young people
absolutely.
as they grow and learn.
Big topic.
Huge, huge topic.
Yeah.
And you've sent me over these plans for these printable guides that sound really, really amazing.
Yeah.
And I think what we're going to try to do today is really unpack some of these ideas,
Sure.
focus in on what's really most relevant for you,
Okay.
and see how you can use these insights to really make a difference in your life.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fascinating. I mean, these guides start with the science,
Yeah.
recognizing that young people from ages 12 to 28
Wow.
are going through these huge transformations,
Yeah.
especially in their brains.
Huge.
And that impacts everything,
Right.
from how they learn in school to how they connect with family.
So are they like completely different people each year?
Well,
How do these guides even approach that?
it's not quite that drastic, but each stage has its own quirks, for sure. So that's why the guides break things down into 4 key age groups:
Okay.
12 to 14,
Okay.
15 to 18,
Got it.
18 to 21, and then 24 to 28.
Okay.
And here's the key.
Yeah.
They don't just explain the changes.
Right.
They actually give you strategies
Uh-huh.
that are tailored to each stage.
That makes a lot of sense.
Let's
Whether I'm dealing with a moody teenager or, a young professional who's trying to find their footing,
Yeah.
these guides are offering specific advice based on
That's it.
where they are in that journey.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. So it's like a roadmap,
Uh-huh.
but it's tailored to different audiences.
Yes.
Now, you mentioned separate versions for schools,
Right.
families,
Yep.
workplaces, and even community organizations.
It is.
That seems incredibly useful.
It is. Think about it. The teacher faces different challenges than a parent. Right.
Oh, for sure.
So the school edition dives into practical classroom strategies.
Yeah.
While the family edition focuses on navigating, those sometimes rocky conversations at home.
Oh, it's so funny you should mention that because I've been really struggling with getting my teenager to talk to me.
Oh, yeah.
Is there anything in the family edition that can help with that?
Actually, there is.
Okay.
It dives into active listening techniques.
Okay.
It explains how asking open-ended questions instead of jumping in with advice can make a huge difference.
Ooh.
Turns out when teens feel heard,
Uh-huh.
they're much more likely to open up.
Interesting. So it's almost counterintuitive, but I guess you're meeting them where they are.
That's it.
Interesting. What about in the school? What kind of specific advice would teachers find in the school edition?
Well, remember how we talked about brain development?
Uh.
So the guides actually connect that science to real-world challenges.
Okay.
For example, you know how teenagers can be impulsive sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Well, their prefrontal cortex, which controls decision-making,
Right.
is still developing.
Makes sense.
The school edition explains how this impacts learning and behavior,
Okay.
and then gives teachers strategies that work with it, not against it.
That's so much more insightful than just saying teenagers are impulsive.
Yeah,
Having that scientific context must be so helpful.
it is. They even have what they call a cheat sheet
Okay.
that links specific student behaviors with recommended responses.
Oh.
So if a student seems disengaged,
Right.
it might suggest using open-ended questions to draw them back in,
Got it.
just like that active listening technique for parents.
So even though the guides are tailored to different audiences,
Right.
they're drawing on those same underlying principles.
It's all connected.
Okay, cool. And speaking of connections,
Yeah,
the workplace edition takes a similar approach,
right.
recognizing that young professionals are also navigating their own developmental stage.
Yeah.
So let's talk more about that, supporting young people in the workplace, because that comes with its own set of
For sure.
considerations.
Yeah, think about it. Those first few years in a career can be really daunting.
Oh, absolutely.
So the workplace edition emphasizes the importance of mentorship,
Okay.
guiding young professionals without stifling their independence.
Right.
And it really encourages creating programs that foster those relationships,
Okay.
providing that safe space for them to ask questions and get feedback.
That sense of belonging, I think, is so important when you're just starting out.
Huge.
So are we talking formal mentorship programs or more informal connections?
The guides actually encourage both.
Okay.
Formal programs provide structure.
Right.
But sometimes those organic connections, like a senior colleague taking a new employee under their wing, can be incredibly powerful.
It's like finding your people,
That's it.
the ones who get you and want to see you succeed.
Absolutely.
And I imagine for the mentors themselves,
Right.
it can be very rewarding.
Totally. It's a two-way street.
Yeah, for sure.
Now,
Okay.
Now, on the flip side,
Okay.
the workplace edition also tackles those tougher conversations,
Uh-huh.
like giving constructive feedback.
Right.
We know those can be tricky, especially with younger employees who might be more sensitive to criticism.
I can see how that could backfire if it's not done well.
Yeah.
Does the guide offer any specific strategies for giving feedback effectively?
It does.
Okay.
And it all comes back to framing and delivery.
Okay.
The guide emphasizes focusing on specific behaviors
Right.
rather than making broad judgments.
Got it.
So instead of saying you're not a good communicator,
Yeah.
you might say, I noticed that in the last presentation, you tended to speak very quickly. Perhaps slowing down and pausing for emphasis would help your audience better understand your key points.
That's such a good point.
Right.
Because one focuses on a fixable behavior,
Yes.
whereas the other one feels like a personal attack.
Totally.
And to be honest, I could probably use that advice myself sometimes.
We all could.
For sure. And the key is to deliver that feedback in a timely manner.
Yeah.
And in a setting where the employee feels respected.
Absolutely.
So it's about creating a culture of open communication.
It is.
Where feedback is seen as a tool for growth,
Yes.
not a weapon.
That's it.
It's about building people up, not tearing them down.
Right.
So we've talked about schools,
Right.
we've talked about families, we've talked about workplaces.
Yep.
But what about the broader community? Where do community organizations fit into all of this?
They're vital.
Okay.
They provide that third space
Okay.
where young people can connect, explore their interests, and develop essential skills.
Okay.
Think after-school programs, youth groups, mentorship initiatives.
Right.
They all contribute to a young person's sense of belonging and purpose.
It really does take a village.
It does.
So how does the community edition support them in doing that effectively?
It provides a framework for developing programs that cater to the specific needs of young people in the community.
Okay.
For example, activities that foster emotional resilience, that ability to bounce back from setbacks,
Right.
are so important for teenagers facing peer pressure and academic stress.
Yeah.
The guide offers tons of ideas for building that resilience
Okay.
through group activities and workshops.
I imagine those programs would look very different depending on the age group that you're talking about.
Absolutely.
Right.
But just like the other editions, the community edition breaks things down by age group,
Got it.
offering activity ideas and communication styles
Right.
tailored to each stage. It even provides guidance on training staff and volunteers to create that safe and inclusive environment
Okay.
where young people feel comfortable taking risks
Yeah.
and learning from their mistakes.
That's so important, especially for those who might be struggling at home or in school.
Absolutely.
These organizations can be real havens,
They can.
providing that extra layer of support.
And the community edition recognizes that.
Okay.
It emphasizes collaboration between community organizations, families, and schools,
Right.
ensuring that young people are receiving consistent support.
So it's about creating that interconnected web of support that we talked about earlier.
Precisely.
It's not about any one entity doing it all, but about everyone working together
That's it.
to provide that holistic approach.
Exactly. And to help visualize that,
Okay.
the guide includes some really helpful infographics.
Ooh, infographics. Always a win.
Yeah.
Which ones stand out as particularly relevant for community organizations?
Well, one depicts the community's role in youth development,
Okay.
showing how different organizations contribute to a young person's well-being.
Got it.
It's a powerful visual reminder of the impact these often behind-the-scenes groups have.
It's easy to overlook those everyday heroes
Yeah.
who are quietly making a difference.
Totally.
What about the other infographic you mentioned?
That one tackles common challenges faced by young people,
Okay.
things like social anxiety or academic stress,
Yeah.
and then presents collaborative solutions.
Got it.
It even includes case studies of communities successfully addressing these issues through joint efforts.
So it's not just highlighting the problems, but also showcasing,
Exactly.
showing that it can be done.
That's so inspiring.
Yeah,
So, okay, we've got these incredible guides,
we do.
each tailored to a specific audience,
Right.
packed with practical advice,
Yep.
actionable strategies,
Uh-huh.
and even visual aids to make the information come alive.
I think it's about giving everyone who interacts with young people the knowledge and tools they need to provide effective support.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Before we move on, let's talk about the design and distribution of these guides.
Sure.
What's the plan to get these into the hands of the people who need them?
The goal is accessibility.
Okay.
So they'll be laid out in a clear, concise way
Okay.
with easy navigation.
Right.
They'll also incorporate graphics like flowcharts and tables to summarize key points.
Now, are they primarily print-based or digital?
Both.
Okay.
They'll be available as downloadable PDFs for easy printing and sharing, perfect for workshops or training sessions.
I can see that being used in so many different settings.
Yeah. What about the digital versions? Are there any cool interactive elements planned?
Absolutely. Think hyperlinks to additional resources,
Okay.
like podcasts or videos,
Yeah.
maybe even embedded quizzes or reflection prompts
Cool.
to personalize the experience.
So you're really leveraging technology to
Yeah.
make this information engaging and easy to apply.
That's the goal.
That's fantastic. I'm already impressed.
Right.
And we've only just scratched the surface.
I know.
I am ready to dive even deeper into these guides,
Okay.
especially the school edition.
I
You know how passionate I am about helping teachers thrive?
know you are.
So let's delve into those classroom-specific strategies next.
Let's do it.
Okay. We'll be back in just a moment to continue our deep dive.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Looking forward to it.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Now, remember how you told me about that one student who just can't seem to stay focused?
Oh, yeah.
Like, no matter what you do.
I know the type.
So let's open up that school edition and see if we can find some strategies that are tailored
Yeah.
for your classroom.
Let's do it. Remember those brain development stages we talked about?
Uh-huh.
The school edition lays them all out,
Okay.
highlighting how each stage impacts learning.
Got it.
For example, middle schoolers.
Right.
They're going through these massive hormonal shifts
Yeah.
that affect their attention spans
Makes sense.
and their emotional regulation.
It's like they're on a roller coaster they can't get off of.
Right.
No wonder focusing on fractions can be a challenge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And instead of fighting against those natural changes,
Right.
the guide encourages teachers to work with them.
Okay. I like that.
It suggests incorporating movement breaks,
Okay.
using visual aids to keep students engaged,
Mhm.
and breaking down complex tasks
Uh-huh.
into smaller, more manageable chunks.
That makes so much sense. It's about meeting them where they are developmentally
That's it.
and recognizing that a one-size-fits-all approach
Right?
just isn't going to cut it.
It won't.
Mm-hmm.
And here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
The school edition actually connects specific teaching strategies
Mm-hmm.
to those brain development stages.
Oh,
So for those middle schoolers who are struggling to focus,
yeah.
it suggests using techniques like think, pair, share activities,
Oh, yeah.
where they get to move around, talk to their peers,
Mm-hmm.
and process information in a more active way.
I love that. It's not just about keeping them busy.
Right.
It's about tapping into their natural social energy and using it to enhance learning.
Exactly. Now, remember that cheat sheet we talked about?
Uh-huh.
The one that links student behaviors
Right.
with recommended responses?
Yeah.
So let's see if we can apply that to your situation.
All right.
You said this student has trouble staying on task?
Yes.
Does he seem disengaged?
Uh-huh.
Or is it more of a fidgety, can't sit still kind of thing?
It's definitely more the fidgety type. He's always tapping his pencil, shifting in his seat.
Yeah.
It's like his body just can't stay still.
I know. That's a classic sign of that developing prefrontal cortex we talked about.
Right.
It's still learning how to regulate impulses.
Yeah.
And sometimes that energy just spills over
Right.
into physical restlessness.
Makes sense.
So the guide suggests a few things for this.
Okay.
First, provide opportunities for movement.
Okay.
Can you incorporate short movement breaks into your lesson plans?
I actually already do that.
Oh, great.
We have a little dance break every hour
Perfect.
to get the wiggles out.
They're already on the right track.
Awesome.
The guide also suggests providing fidget toys.
Okay.
Things like stress balls or those little textured squares.
I've heard of those.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure if they would be more distracting
Yeah.
than helpful.
It's all about setting clear expectations.
Right.
You can make it part of your classroom routine.
Okay.
Fidget toys are allowed as long as they stay in the student's personal space
Mm-hmm.
and they don't interfere with learning.
That's a great idea. I think that would actually work really well with this particular student.
Good.
He responds well to clear boundaries.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
Remember, it's all about experimenting and finding what works best for each individual student.
Absolutely. Speaking of individual needs, I've also got a student who's incredibly bright,
Okay.
but gets easily frustrated when she doesn't understand something right away.
Oh, yeah.
Any tips for supporting those perfectionist tendencies?
Oh, I remember those students.
Yeah.
The guide actually addresses perfectionism specifically.
Okay.
It suggests teaching them coping mechanisms
Mm-hmm.
for dealing with frustration.
Okay.
Things like deep breathing exercises
Right.
or positive self-talk.
Oh, yeah.
And here's the key,
Yeah.
helping them reframe mistakes
Uh-huh.
as opportunities for learning.
I love that. So much of school is about getting the right answer.
Right.
But mistakes are truly where the real learning happens.
They are.
It's just hard to see that when you're in the thick of it,
Yeah.
especially for those high-achieving students.
It is. The guide also encourages teachers to create a classroom culture where mistakes are celebrated, not feared.
Okay.
You can model this by openly acknowledging your own mistakes
Right.
and talking about what you learned from them.
That's such a good reminder. We're all human.
We are.
We all mess up.
Yes.
And those moments can be such powerful teaching tools
Totally.
if we embrace them.
Exactly. And for those students who are particularly sensitive to making mistakes,
Right.
you can work with them individually to develop personalized strategies.
Okay.
Maybe they need a quiet space to decompress after a challenging task.
Okay.
Or maybe they benefit from having a buddy system
Yeah.
where they can check their work with a peer before turning it in.
Those are all really practical tips.
Good.
I can already see how these guides are going to be so helpful.
Yeah.
Not just for me,
Right.
but for my entire school.
That's great.
Are there any other strategies in the school edition?
You know, one that really stands out
Yeah.
is the emphasis on parent-teacher collaboration.
Oh, that's so crucial.
It is.
But to be honest, it can be a challenge
Yeah.
to get parents engaged sometimes.
I understand. The guide acknowledges that.
Okay.
It offers some really practical tips for building those bridges.
All right.
For example, instead of just sending home a generic newsletter, try sending personalized messages to parents,
Okay.
highlighting their child's strengths
Right.
and areas for growth.
That feels much more collaborative
It does.
than just sending a report card home.
Totally. Any other tips for getting parents involved?
Yeah.
The guide also suggests hosting informal events
Okay.
where parents and teachers can connect outside of the traditional parent-teacher conference setting.
Got it.
So it could be a coffee morning, a potluck dinner,
I love that.
or even a family game night at the school.
I love those ideas.
Yeah.
It's about creating that sense of community and breaking down those barriers
That's it.
between school and home.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that we're all on the same team
Yes.
when it comes to supporting young people.
Speaking of teams, one of my biggest challenges is getting my students to work together effectively.
Oh, yeah.
Any advice on fostering collaboration and teamwork in the classroom?
The guide has a whole section on that.
Perfect.
It suggests starting with team-building activities
Okay.
that help students get to know each other and build trust.
Okay.
You could even have them create a class contract
Okay.
where they collectively decide on norms for respectful communication and conflict resolution.
I love that it gives them ownership over the process.
Yes.
And makes them feel like they're part of creating that positive classroom culture.
Exactly. And when it comes to group projects, the guide suggests assigning roles and responsibilities to each team member,
Right.
ensuring that everyone has a chance to contribute their unique skills and talents.
It's about creating those opportunities for them to shine,
It is.
even if they're not always the most vocal or outgoing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And remember, modeling is key.
Right.
If you want your students to be collaborative,
Yeah.
you need to demonstrate those behaviors yourself.
That's such a good point.
So how you interact with your colleagues, how you handle conflict, how you value different perspectives, it all sets the tone for your classroom.
We are their role models,
You are.
whether we realize it or not.
Yes.
And so much of teaching is about being mindful of the messages that we're sending,
It is.
even the unspoken ones.
You're absolutely right. And the school edition really encourages that mindfulness.
Right.
Reminding teachers that they're not just teaching academics,
Right.
they're shaping young minds and hearts.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think that's a beautiful way to put it.
Okay.
It's a big responsibility,
It is.
but it's also incredibly rewarding.
Totally.
I'm so glad we took this deep dive into the school edition.
Oh,
I'm
boy.
feeling very inspired,
No.
energized to put all these strategies into practice.
Awesome.
But, I'm also thinking about all the parents and caregivers out there
Yeah.
who are navigating these same challenges
Right.
at home. I can't wait to hear what the family edition has to offer them.
I know, right?
Yeah.
Let's switch gears and explore those strategies next.
Okay.
It's all about those heart-to-heart conversations.
Yes.
And building those strong family connections.
Awesome. We'll be back in just a moment to continue our deep dive. Welcome back to the deep dive, We've explored those insightful guides for schools and workplaces.
Right.
And now it's time to step into the world of community organizations.
Yeah.
You know, those amazing groups that offer everything from after-school programs to youth mentorship.
Absolutely. They're often the glue that holds the community together,
Yeah.
providing that vital third space
Right.
where young people can connect,
Yeah.
explore their interests, and develop essential skills. Think
Yeah.
about the impact of like a local boys and girls club
Right.
or a youth sports league.
Yeah.
They're shaping lives every day.
It's like they're creating a safety net, catching those who might fall through the cracks.
Yeah.
So how does the community edition help these organizations
Well,
maximize their impact?
it provides a framework for developing programs
Okay.
that truly resonate with young people in the community.
Okay.
For example, it emphasizes activities that foster emotional resilience,
Uh-huh.
that ability to bounce back from setbacks.
Right.
Imagine a program where teenagers learn coping mechanisms for dealing with stress
Right.
through things like mindfulness exercises or journaling.
That's so important, especially in today's world,
It is.
where young people are facing so many pressures.
So many.
It's not just about keeping them busy.
Right.
It's about equipping them with the tools to navigate life's challenges.
Exactly. And the community edition takes a really smart approach.
Okay.
Just like the other guides, it breaks things down by age group,
Uh-huh.
recognizing that a program designed for 12-year-olds
Right.
will need a different vibe than one for young adults.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. You wouldn't talk to a middle schooler the same way you would talk to a college student.
Totally different.
What kind of activities do they suggest for those different age groups?
Well, for middle schoolers, they might suggest a program focused on building social skills and teamwork
Okay.
through interactive games or even like a mock trial simulation.
Cool.
It's about making learning fun and engaging.
Yeah.
For high school students, it could be a leadership development program
Right.
where they plan and execute a community service project.
I love that. Giving them real-world experience
Excellent.
and empowering them to make a difference.
That's it.
What about those young adults who are transitioning to college or the workforce?
Yeah. The guide suggests workshops on things like financial literacy,
Okay.
resume writing,
Hmm.
or even interview skills.
Great.
It's about giving them practical tools to succeed in that next chapter of their lives.
Yeah.
And what's really cool is that the community edition also provides guidance on training staff and volunteers to create that safe and inclusive environment.
Right.
They talk about the importance of active listening, conflict resolution,
Uh-huh.
and creating a culture where everyone feels valued and respected.
That's so crucial.
It is.
Because these organizations can be real havens for young people,
They can.
especially those who might be struggling at home or feeling lost.
Right. And the guide emphasizes the importance of collaboration
Right.
with families and schools
Yeah.
to ensure that young people are receiving consistent support.
Right. So it's about creating that village that we talked about,
Exactly.
where everyone's on the same page working together to create that network
That's it.
of support.
And speaking of bringing things to life, are there any infographics in the community edition that you think are particularly impactful?
Yeah. Are there any?
There are two that really stand out. One visually depicts the community's role in youth development,
Okay.
showing how different organizations contribute to a young person's well-being. It's a powerful reminder that these often behind-the-scenes groups are making a real difference.
Those unsung heroes, it's easy to forget how much they contribute to a thriving community.
Yeah. What about the other infographic?
Yeah. What about that one?
That one tackles common challenges faced by young people,
Uh-huh.
things like social anxiety or academic stress,
Right.
and then presents collaborative solutions involving community organizations, families, and schools all working together.
So it's really a roadmap for positive change.
It is.
It's not just highlighting the problems, but showcasing those real-world examples
Exactly.
of how communities can come together to make a difference.
It's about empowering communities to take action.
Yeah.
And the community edition provides them with the tools and the inspiration to do just that.
As we wrap up our deep dive into these amazing guides, what's that key takeaway that you hope listeners will remember?
I think it's all about understanding that young people thrive when they feel supported, connected, and empowered.
Yeah.
Whether you're a teacher, a parent, an employer, or a community leader, you have the power to create those positive environments where
Right.
young people can flourish.
Beautifully said. And I think these guides offer a fantastic starting point for anyone looking to deepen their understanding
Absolutely.
and make a real difference in the lives of young people. So to our listeners, we encourage you to seek out these resources. Consider how you can apply these insights in your own sphere of influence. Every interaction, every moment of support can have a ripple effect that extends far beyond what we can imagine.
It really can. And remember, supporting young people's development isn't just about providing resources or programs. It's about fostering genuine connections, building trusting relationships, and believing in their potential. When we do that, we're not just shaping their lives. We're shaping the future of our communities and the world.
That's a powerful message to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep believing in the power of human connection.